Alright, so the worst has happened. You find yourself in a zombie scenario. But you've been preparing, you know how to take down a zombie, you know that you need certain supplies, you watch these videos, and so on, kept up to date with the Z.E.D. So you know what you need. You got your map, hopefully you marked it off. You have a tool like a crowbar or a monkey wrench that you could use as an improvised weapon. You have the knowledge of how to take down a zombie and a little bit of how the virus is spread and kind of a little bit of the zombie's mannerism, if you can call it that. You got your EDC, like your lighter and the knife to carry on you, and if you happen to have a firearm, you have secured ammunition to keep it going. So, that being said, are you ready to go and move to find a safer location, or to evacuate, or stay put and scavenge what's near you? Not just yet. Zombie survival is like any other survival situation, meaning any type of tool or kit you know you would need in a survival situation, or even like a camping or a hunting situation, you're going to need here, because this is survival in a modern setting. But just because you're surrounded by houses and cars and stores and whatnot, have roads and everything like that, doesn't mean they're serviceable. Remember, it's going to be a state of anarchy as the zombie outbreak moves full swing. Powers are going to go down. Power lines may even go down as well. Even if you keep the power lines, just power could be cut for whatever reason. The streets aren't going to be clear. There'll be accidents, abandoned cars, and maybe some fires. Things looking like a natural disaster hit, and emergency did not respond. The emergency response teams, rather. So, yes, it's a modern setting, but you're still going to need the tools for, like, as if you're hunting or camping in the woods or surviving in the woods. That being said, other factors aside from getting away from or dealing with the zombies are going to still factor into your survival. So that's what this video is. This video is a little lecture about what you also have to keep in mind aside from the zombies possibly trying to knock down your door. And because of the blizzard that just recently hit, I thought I'd start with the weather. Weather is a big one. Mother Nature does not care what's going on where you live. It's going to do its thing as it always has been. So if you live in an area prone to earthquakes, it's going to happen. If it's going to happen, it's not going to take a break because there's a zombie outbreak. Flooding, if you know you can get snow and it's winter time, you better prepare for snow. You're not going to have meteorologists telling you weather forecasts anymore. Chances are, if you do have power and you turn on your TV, you're going to be on the emergency broadcasting network. For as long as somebody's there to give you actual updates. But chances are you're not going to get anything about the weather. So you have to kind of rely on how you know the area, your experience with the seasons throughout time and the other seasons, and know that, okay, we're in prime time winter, meaning snow could happen tomorrow. Got to be prepared for that. Likewise, you could be in a transition period where you may have to start adding to or removing stuff from your kit as from scavenging around. Remember, you're in a state of anarchy. You can't just go down to the local store and buy something. You gotta make do with what you got and what you can scavenge. So weather's a big one. Weather will always be there. Weather will always be weather, and you're gonna have to deal with it because that's the way the world works. Speaking of nature, you can deal with animals. Even if you live in a town, you still have to deal with wild animals. If you know you live by areas that have poisonous insects or poisonous reptiles or aggressive animals, they're still going to be there probably. They may be in small numbers, as many probably have left the area or maybe got infected and died off. Remember, the zombie virus, as far as we know it's thus far, cannot jump species. Meaning, if they get infected with it, they don't turn into a zombie, it's just fatal for the animal. But a fatal disease, a fatal degenerative disease of essentially the nervous system, will cause animals to kind of go crazy, quote unquote. Normally docile animals will suddenly get aggressive and violent. So you have to be careful. Is the animal infected? If it is it acting out of the norm? Keep distance from most things. If you find an animal carcass that's fresh on the ground, should you scavenge pieces off of it to eat? I don't know. It depends. Has it been infected or not? You have to be careful with that. So another thing to keep in mind is animals, because animals, especially wild ones, they're unpredictable. Even though they themselves cannot turn to zombies, if they are infected, they can transmit that infection to you. In the same way a normal human bite can do it, so can an animal bite, so do be careful. Transitioning out of Mother Nature, we're talking about the environment that we've built around us. If you're on the move or you happen to live near a tunnel, I would rather you don't use the tunnel at all. Tunnels are a dangerous place. Power's probably going to be cut. They're going to be pitch black for the most part, or very low lighting if there's a straight tunnel. You're not going to be able to see what's in there too well. Cars could be piled up, abandoned. Parts could be blocked off completely. Zombies could be waiting for you right around the corner, or not so much a corner because it curves, but right out of sight. So you have to be careful. Even if it's not zombies, just hostile people. Which brings us to our next point. Before we get there, I just want to say, keep in mind tunnels. Tunnels can be a problem. Large parking garages could also be a problem if you're trying to move through an area. If they, depending how blocked off they are in terms of light getting in. Generally things that block line of sight, things that are large, like a large parking complex, are things you want to steer clear of, because as you move through them, you may lose people if they took a wrong turn, let's say, in like a parking complex, or people could get caught up and stuck on things they didn't previously see because it's so dark. And also, in these confined spaces, noises are amplified. Just like screaming into a cave kind of echoes it. Driving underneath an overpass or in a tunnel makes things louder. Your voice will carry farther. Zombies will hear it at greater distances than if you're outside, out and about. Also, it's not as easy to pinpoint. Now with a tunnel, it's forward or back, but even then, you may not know. Do they get behind you? Or are they in front of you? So you have to be careful with that. Moving on to our next point is what I call rogue human factions. Other groups of people who don't care about the greater good of humanity. Remember, we're talking about surviving the zombie outbreak to keep the human species going. And in order to do that, you gotta work together. Some people won't want to work together. They're just going to want to further their own needs and desires, which could mean basically screwing you over. They could try and take your stuff and leave you high and dry, or they may just kill you to take your stuff. So you have to be careful, which is why it's good to know. Not so much good to know, but like. Aiming for the head is important against zombies, but against people, standard self-defense techniques for both melee and range would apply at that point. But hopefully you won't have to deal with that, but always be wary of other groups, not paranoid, just wary. That brings us to our next thing on the list, paranoia and everyday living. What I mean by that is, part of everyday living is encountering and dealing with people, as well as overcoming sickness, common cold, flu, whatever it is. It's going to happen. Just because the zombie outbreak is here doesn't mean other sicknesses are going to take a sideline. They're going to still come after you, pretty much. So, just because somebody's got a cough, a fever, the sniffles, flu-like symptoms, or whatever it is, stomach pain, doesn't mean they're infected with the zombie virus. Just because you encounter another group of people doesn't mean they're going to try and take all your stuff and leave you for dead. Could it mean that? Yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it because there's another group of people or because the person looks sick. The moment you start letting the lightest and littlest things trigger paranoia like this, like if somebody coughs next to you, oh, they must have the zombie virus. If you see another group of people wandering somewhere or scavenging something, that immediately means they're after your stuff. The moment you start thinking like that is the moment you start getting self-destructive and making mistakes and slipping up. And you don't want that, especially if you're with other people. You don't want that type of mentality. It's dangerous. It can lead you to be that group of people who is out there raiding and killing other groups because you think, well, preemptive strike or something like that. It's dangerous mentality. And it can very easily happen when the society goes under and the state of anarchy pretty much happens. It can be easy to kind of develop a paranoia type of personality. So just hopefully being with a group of people, if you happen to be able to find a group of people to get with, will help stave that off. But definitely keep that in mind, because that's self-destructive and it can lead to a counterproductive mindset of survival. I can't cover everything here. I'm trying to think of things that I can mention off the cuff right now. But I think we hit some of the big ones: weather, wild animals, human paranoia, and just things like tunnels and parking garages and things of that nature. One other thing you have to keep in mind is distance. Are you sure you can go somewhere during daylight hours? Or during any set amount of time? Let's say you have a 4-hour window, be it day or night. Do you have the ability to get X amount of miles or whatever it is to where you know there's, let's say, a house or something that you can use for shelter or quickly clear of any possible zombies and use for shelter before you need to stop after that X amount of time? That's one other big thing if you're going to go on the move. Personally, we recommend moving during the daylight hours, and that'll be its own video. But no matter when you do that, you have to make sure at the end of the time you allot yourself to move, you have somewhere you can hunker down if you're going to be moving. If you're staying still, everything pretty much applies to you as well. Even leaving yourself X amount of time or being able to get back in X amount of time. You don't want to get caught up somewhere outside of your safe haven and have to spend the time out of it. So that's pretty much it for the big things. Of course, also keep in mind food and water and the shelter as well. But these are things you have to keep in mind, because having your supplies like your map and your tools and whatnot won't mean anything if you don't factor in a lot of this basic common sense stuff for survival. So be sure to make sure you're prepared with a plan and a kit. It is winter time. We just got hit with a blizzard. So you have to keep in mind of these effects as well. Anyways, be safe, be prepared, have a plan, take care.